So yes, Peter and Heidi had brought their parents along on their honeymoon. And yes, the taxis waiting for them at the Siks Neyshunz Eirport were horse and buggies, three of them, one for each couple. And now, they're going to touch down, but I got to back up a little bit. I might have given you a misimpression of Farmer's Cove. That's that whole area that is enclosed by Maker Mountain. You probably imagine it something like a volcano. In it, it's round. No, it's many mountains. Each one of those parts of the mountain are individually named, but in some they make this vast, uneven-looking circle, almost like more like the shape of a hand, really, than a circle. And the dark in the middle was a little higher area. So I just wanted to clear that up. Now, when they touched down, I got to speed up a little bit because I'm not going to tell you about their parents yet, but they have their whole other stories to tell before the week is over. They touch down and they get out of the plane and they get their luggage, and then waiting for them is Mervin. Mervin is the driver of the first horse and buggy. I maybe should call them Surreys, like the Surrey with the fringe on top, because they had a back seat. No, well, and they were alike. They were black. And Mervin came up and said, "Welcome to Farmer's Cove," and introduced himself as Mervin Zimmerman, I think was his last name. And the two others that were with him, they did the same, but Mervin was more the talker. He was more of a people's guy. But they all had their black hats, and they clearly, you could see by the way they were dressed, that they were Mennonites. Horse and buggy Mennonites, or Old Order Mennonites. Now, they weren't Amish. They did use tractors, steel-wheeled tractors in the fields, but their preferred mode of, most of them didn't have cars. There were also what they called car Mennonites. They were horse and buggy Mennonites. And anyway, he greeted them. They got their stuff in the back, and they started off toward Erths Drink. Now, this is countryside. This is a small airport. There's only like one or two, maybe four arrivals of planes in a day. It's getting a little bit more since the word's getting out about Erths Drink, but not that many. And so they're going down a country road. There's really not another car really in sight until they come to a crossroads, and there's a stop sign, and there might be a few cars or something, and on they went, a little parade of three horse and buggies. And they were going along, and a couple things that the couple noticed. Well, one thing, it was Heidi actually, that noticed that the crops that they were going among didn't seem like they weren't as tall and dark green as she'd imagined that they were. They didn't look bad, but it was June, and the corn, this stuff she knew because she'd been to Berea College, which is maybe a whole other story, which maybe I'll just tell you right now that part of her schooling at Berea was to spend one day a week on a farm. That was just kind of standard. But anyway, so she was looking around and she noticed that, and eventually asked about that, and Mervin, and he was riding along. It was quiet, so just clip clop clip clop of the and the rumble of the wheels on the asphalt, so he could easily talk. It was so leisurely, and he explained, well, what she's probably seeing is the result of the big change, the Great Awakening, the big change that had gone on, and largely sparked, sped up, accelerated by the price of fertilizer. That the Amish, or not the Amish, the Mennonites, since they use tractors, they also were hit by the price of diesel and the price of fertilizer, and they weren't using it as much as it had been used back in the day before the Great Change, when it was just being used like there was no end. So he said, that's probably what you see. No, the crops are fine. The rain's been good. We'll probably have a good summer. And the other thing they noticed was something curious about the signs. They, the Siks Neyshunz Eirport, and then they'd gotten on a road called Woder Kres Krik Ruwd. Woder Kres Krik Ruwd was the name of the road they were on. But the signs in each case, they were written as if it was in two languages, like Siks Neyshunz Eirport. You can imagine how that was. But underneath it, it had Siks, S-I-K-S, new word, Neyshunz, N-E-Y-S-H-U-N-Z, Neyshunz, and then airport, new word, airport, E-I-R-P-O-R-T, Siks Neyshunz Eirport. And then when they got on the road, Woder Kres Krik Ruwd, that was Woder Kres Krik Ruwd, as you would imagine, and below it, water, W-O-D-E-R, a new word, Kres, K-R-E-S, new word, Krik, K-R-I-K, new word, Road, R-U-W-D, Woder Kres Krik Ruwd. And Peter was the one that asked, what's that other language? Why do you have your signs in two languages? He said, no, that's English. There's no other language there. That's English. It's just two ways of spelling it. And Peter and Heidi too, they were fascinated. Why would you do that? And that takes a little bit of explaining, but I'll take the time now to say, Mervin explained that, well, part of the Great Change was that people in the Farmer's Cove had decided, well, the whole world was shifting this way. They were more aware of ethnicity. And by writing English in that other spelling system, that was a start for the people of Farmer's Cove to learn Pennsylvania Dutch, because Pennsylvania Dutch doesn't have a writing system of its own. This was something that a guy, and Mervin said, you're going to end up hearing about him. He's called the Wizard. People call him the Wizard. He'd come up with this as a way to spell so that Pennsylvania Dutch could have its own writing system. And this is too long a story. I maybe shouldn't go into it, but it's something that they noticed. All the signs were like this. It reminded Heidi of a time that she was in northern Spain, Galicia, and when it got into the area where Gallego was the language, they had the language in Spanish, and then they had the Gallego underneath it, and it was very similar but different. She'd seen the same sort of thing in northern Spain, what is that part of Spain called the Basque, where it is a completely foreign language from Spanish, but they would have those signs in two. And all these names. Mervin explained that it had a funny effect because it got tourist attention right away, like it did you. And you might, if some people thought that's just a gimmick, they're just doing that to make it look like that. And he said, no, that's not the case at all. It's a way that people who only speak English, he said, we Mennonites, we basically have three languages, Dutch, and then in church we speak German, High German, And in and we learn in school. We learn English. That's the principal thing we do, to learn how to read and write English. But to most people in Farmers Cove, they're monolingual. They only have one language, and it was a decision made by school boards and communities that they should, as part of the education of their children, reach out and get them so that they could know some Pennsylvania Dutch. And the easiest way to do it was to start off by learning their spelling system. Now, I'm sorry that I went on so long about this, but they had time. And Peter and Heidi both, they were just fascinated that they saw this. Well, anyway, on they went down a country road, Pleasant, but then before long, there was a building with a whole lot of cars around it. It was out in the country. And Mervin, I'm getting these names. Mervin was the guy's name. Mervin, he saw that and he said, I think you'd probably enjoy it if we'd stop there. And there was a sign up there above it that said Porboz Dairy. And of course, underneath it, that was P-O-R-B-A-U-G-H, Porboz Dairy. And underneath it, of course, it had P-O-R-B-O, Porboz Dairy. And he said, I think you'd enjoy a stop here. Trust me on this. And they pulled over into the parking lot and stopped. Bye for now.